Many of our episodes today deal with diplomatic failures, and there's a lot of great Klingon action to go around. Thanks for joining me on Best of Trek, Worst of Trek. I'm your host, Dustin Wing. Starting a holy war at 248 and 249, Crusade, or Flesh and Blood. When self-aware Hollows create a religion around their persecution and acquire one of the biggest proponents of photonic rights in the Doctor, it gives him a new perspective on how far is too far before the hunted become the hunters. It's a very interesting look at this age-old trope in this feature-length episode that shows why in early Voyager, Janeway would have never given holotechnology to a Delta Quadrant race, like she did at the end of The Killing Game. Because you can't predict how this will interfere in a space you're leaving. B'Elanna gets to set aside her hatred of Cardassians for a minute as she becomes friends with a holographic version of one and convinces her to stop the whole reverse genocide on the Hirogen thing. For the Doctor's traitorous actions, Janeway gives him a "don't do it again" speech, and that's the end of that. Getting all made up at 247, Bloodwine Bloodbath, or Apocalypse Rising. We start off a new season on a not-quite cliffhanger as Odo suspects Gowron of being a changeling and gives some of our main cast a chance to do the lengthy Klingon makeup ritual. They're treated to enough blood wine to slosh even the surliest Klingon and have their plan mostly foiled before they can put it into motion. Though through this and their interactions with Martok, Odo deduces it's really he who is the changeling, and the Klingons blast him into bits. Sisko can't salvage the peace treaty with the Klingons, but earns a new respect in Gowron's amazing eyes. Adding Gul Dukat to the picture with his captured bird of prey ferrying our heroes to their encounter with Gowron was a nice furtherance of where that character is in his story. This one received 2 Emmy nominations for cinematography and makeup, saving the Earth from techno hippies at 245 and 46. Time Shenanigans, or Future's End Parts 1 and 2. This is one big nostalgia roller coaster of 1996. Unlike the Y2K scare episode a few years later though, it still holds up as well today as it did when I first saw it then. A little corny at times, but always in a nod to classic sci-fi cheese, while remaining an iconic two-parter. When a time loop is created by the Future Federation Time Police trying to destroy Voyager because of some superficial evidence of them being at Earth when it's destroyed, this creates some of the most ease-of-use time travel we've seen in the franchise, as Voyager joins the club of shows that go back or near to the actual year of the show that was produced. Going back to the Y2K episode, though, Janeway here says she doesn't know what her ancestors were doing that far back in history, but will later recount the somewhat fictitious history of her ancestor. That aside, the casting of Ed Bagley Jr. as the bad guy and a very young Sarah Silverman whose character is sending out a similar message as the golden records aboard the actual Voyager spacecrafts, and idea our modern computer age only happened because of a causality loop, are a few of this episode's many high points. Even though Janeway closes the time loop, Braxton only offers to return them to Gilligan's Island of the Delta Quadrant in an "I hate temporal mechanics" moment. Stirring things up at 244, Taking Sides, or The Council. There's so much going on in this episode. While Archer presents evidence that it's not humans that pose a threat to the Xindi, but the very sphere builders that gave them tips from the future, meanwhile Reed leads a team of Makos into one of said spheres to gather more information. The Council ends up split, with the reptilians and insectoids withdrawing and launching the weapon themselves. The ending sequence becomes a really well done space battle for the 2000 CGI. Before the reptilians kill Degra for destroying one of their ships, He and Trip have a very nice heart-to-heart talk and apology for the loss of his sister. This was the moment Trip needed to truly start moving forward. Also, the episode opens on T'Pol taking her first steps towards ending her Trellium-D addiction. Now it's a race to Earth to stop the weapon from becoming activated. And it's even more personal since they take Hoshi to help decipher the final activation codes. It's just the beginning of raising the stakes in the battle for all of humanity in the Xindi arc. This episode was nominated for an Emmy for special effects, but lost to this season's finale. Embracing the Collective at 243, Reassimilate, or Unity. If you've been paying attention to Voyager, nothing good ever happens when Chakotay starts at the controls of a shuttle. After going in circles with a soon-to-be red shirt, they detect an apparent Federation signal and end up crashing, and only Chakotay barely survives the natives. Apparently, everyone on this planet is former Borg, though there's some really big canon questions to answer. As the episode goes on, it's said many were taken during the Battle of Wolf 359. The thing is, that cube was destroyed. Was there a second Borg cube at the Battle of Wolf 359? It's long been surmised that the Borg vessel that scooped up both random Romulan and Federation outposts in the neutral zone was not the same cube we saw in the Best of Both Worlds. And I would say that this confirms it. Chakotay has to make a literal life or death choice to have a temporary Borg link attached to him so they can collectively heal him. Which sounds like straight up magic, but I'm totally here for the power of healing through positive thinking. Simultaneously, Janeway and crew come across the deactivated cube these former drones came from. Turns out the Borg had another motive to linking Chakotay with them, to use him to turn back on a Borg link signal to link all the Borg on this planet so they wouldn't keep attacking each other for resources. It's a really noble and interesting ethical situation. It's a good day to die at 242, Klingon red carpet, or Blood Oath. When the who's who of TOS-era Klingons converge on the station, we learn that Dax's previous host made a pact to avenge the death of their sons at the hands of an albino Klingon. When his whereabouts are learned, it becomes an ethical conflict for Jadzia, and tries to get advice from Kira and Benjamin about killing in the name of killing having justification. They go into glorious battle, with only Dax and Kor left standing at the end. The only problem is how this battle is played up, and takes only about 8 minutes of total runtime. Don't get me wrong, there's some deep Klingon lore and epic discussion of extreme moral gray areas, but it could have been done a little more actiony.
Ah, computer! That program is available.
Thanks, Major. Thanks, Major.
Last time on Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Thanks, Major.
Download complete.
Thanks, Major.
And now the conclusion.
Thanks, Major.